We've got a lovely old Fender Princeton amp, probably from 65 or 66, we'll find out. No reverb on the Princeton. This is just the volume, treble, bass, speed, intensity. It's really in great cosmetic shape, you know, probably about a 9 out of 10. Really looks promising. Let's flip it around and take a look at the back. It's got a Weber 10F150 speaker in here. It's a really nice choice, ceramic. And non-original screw here, non-original screws at the bottom where you can't see where I'm pointing. I've got some repros of these. It's just a 6x32 stainless steel sheet metal screws. So let's take a look and see what else we got going on in here. Replace power cable. That's good. Hopefully it's done right. It sadly rarely is, as I've shown. People just kind of copy what used to be there. It's got an additional jack here where the ground switch used to be. It's not a jack, it's a trim pot. I must have installed a bias pot there. Hopefully it's bias pot, not a hum balance. I can see it's got a CE multi-section electrolytic, so that's been changed out. I can see on the speaker cable, it's got the original plug here, but this screw has come loose. That would have been screwed to the original speaker frame, and it could be screwed to this Weber speaker frame in one of these holes right here. Probably just takes looks like a number 8 sheet metal screw to do that. I will ask the owner if he'd like me to do that. There's some loose Tolex flapping around. I can glue that back down. I've shown that in other videos. Maybe I'll show it again on this one. Let's see here. Old GZ34. Hopefully it's a GZ34. It's kind of loose in the socket. The Princeton and the Deluxe did not have the bear trap retainers that the Bassman and Super and Twins and Pros did. And it's a nice addition to give a little more security. That is a 5AR4 USA. Looks like an RCA. No, it's a GE. Put this in here for now. It's got 2 gray 6V6s. RCA. RCA. These two octal sockets are much tighter than this one. I'll be tightening this one up, and I'll ask the owner if he'd like some bear traps. I see a switch added down here. We'll take a look inside in just a few minutes and see what that does. So the preamp tubes. Electroharmonics yellow print 12AX7. These often have heater hum issues. The silver print 7825s tend to be much better. And a JJ ECC 803S. So really good output tubes. Okay phase inverter. We'll see how the preamp does. Let's get this out for the power cable. Some asshole used a flathead screw for that. That's going to go away. Flatheads need to go away from our existence. All right, let me take these mounting brackets off and we'll see what we see. The non-reverb amps are kind of nice from my perspective because I can put a whole bunch of stuff in the bottom of the cab and it doesn't get lost. The reverb tank will swallow up little screws and nuts. Trust me, I have learned that the hard way. Something I've learned over time, when you're pulling the chassis out of old Fender cabinets, the front bottom edges, the lips of the panels can catch on the Tolex on the side. So I like to kind of feel that as I go on each side to make sure that it's not catching, because if it does catch and you pull anyway, you can just bend the corners up or the sides up of those panels. I'd rather take a minute to do it right than do some damage that's going to take an hour to undo. All right, no damage to the panel. And this flap of Tolex, I will glue back down when I do the rest of it. Well, I've got this up on the bench in front of me. Let me make sure that all the nuts holding the speaker in place are just past finger tight. And it's like tuning a snare drum. All right, they're all tightened up now. One of them's missing a nut. It will have one when it goes out. And it's got 7 of 8, so it's not really necessary, but Why not? All right, we have a date code of 1966 on the power and 1967 on the output. So I imagine this is an early 67. Electronically, there's no difference. I don't think there's any difference to collectors. Fender Musical Instruments, a division of Columbia Record Distribution Corporation. This is the CBS era. CBS owned Columbia, and Fender was just in the Columbia Record subsidiary. It's all music, right? Let's make sure it has the correct fuse before we do anything else. It is a 1 amp, that is correct, for US 120 volt use. 117 volts as it says here. I got a date code of 66 on the chassis, so I'm not sure what to make of that 67 date code on the output transformer. Anyway, the power cable was actually almost installed very, very well. I need to reconnect the hot and neutral, make them a little bit shorter, and redo this ground from the chassis mounting hardware directed to the to the chassis. I'll probably be able to leave these on the others because the Princeton power transformer weighs so much less than other power transformers that Fender used that it's not really as much of a risk of them coming loose. Once they're really tight, they tend to stay that way. But I will confirm that. The bias cap's been changed, as has the diode and the resistor. And this bias is going down here to this trim pot. So it's the same pot you use for a deluxe reverb and such. I'm not nuts about the way it's implemented, but it's a good use, a good way to reuse the old grounding polarity circuit. So I'm going to prettify that, but keep the basic idea. And they have what seem to be the original 1K and 18Ks, 2 watt, 1 watt, 1 watt here in the filtering and the power nodes. They don't seem to be discolored. I'll measure them. We'll see if I need to do anything about them. It's had all the electrolytics changed out previously and done well. I'm not seeing any bad work in here. I'm going to have to do a closer inspection to see if there's anything I'm missing because I'm looking at it from about 2 feet away with the camera between me and the work. But it seems very promising. This is a negative feedback switch, this little switch here. It's not doing any harm. You can get the stock sound. The hole's already drilled, so I'm going to leave it in place unless it's defective. I'm not nuts about that solder joint there, but I can clean that up. Other than that, it all seems to be original. Let's put all the tubes in place and connect it to a cabinet and hear what it sounds like. Something I should have mentioned when I had the interior view up. These two sockets, these two octal sockets, the ones which are tight, do not match the one which is loose. That's not a good sign. We'll figure out what's going on with that. The one that's loose seems to be original. It seems to be this 636, which is the cause of that noise. So maybe some new tubes will be necessary. Anyway, the socket for the rectifier seems to be original. These two are later replacements, but they've been in there a long time. I can tell from the patina. They just look like they've been exposed to the air for a while. So I think we do need some new 6v6s and probably a new rectifier socket. Though I'll try to tighten up the old one. Let's see what the sound is like. That's just dirt. That's not DC. People often ask whenever I have a Princeton or Champ video up how I turn the vibrato on without using the foot switch. In the Princeton and the Princeton Reverb and the Champ and the Vibro Champ, this is wired so that the tremolo is on until you apply ground to this point of the circuit. On the Deluxe Reverb, the Super Reverb, the Twin Reverb, etc., the tremolo is off until ground is applied here. So you either need to use the foot switch or the little dummy plug for those models. But for the Princeton here, the Princeton Reverb and the Vibro Champ, you do not. That's a nice sounding tremolo in there. Let's see what the negative feedback switch is sounding like. Sorry, so everything you've heard so far has been without the negative feedback. It's not doing a ton here. This is with the volume dimed bridge humbucker. This is overall sounding really good, aside from that noise on that tube, which is, not ideal, but easily remedied. So I think the owner is in a very good place. This socket's a bit loose compared to this one, a lot loose. They're both original. This one's just tight. This one's loosened up in its frame. A lot of the problems that an owner would have experienced were resolved just by cleaning that treble pot. I'll show this video to the owner and we'll see what we end up doing. I don't think it'll be much. I do think, though, it will be worthwhile. So I hope you enjoyed this, and as always, thanks for watching.